It seems like Bill Barr is going to get the job. Are you convinced he can be independent and stand up to the president if need be?
Well, I thought he presented a very strong front. He has a lot of gravitas, and so many things about him give me confidence. But I'll tell you, the one thing that really bothered me was when he said that he would seek ethics officials' opinion as to whether he should recuse, but he did not promise to abide by their opinion. He said he would decide. And when Senator Harris really pushed him on that about under what circumstances would he make a decision contrary to the advice of ethics officials, he said, if I disagreed with them. And so he held out a little wiggle room to do what he thinks is right and to violate the advice of ethics officials. That concerned me.
Okay, Matt, I want to talk about that memo, the 19-page memo that Bill Barr wrote months ago, where he talks extensively about executive power and how the special counsel's vision of obstruction of justice does not adhere to the law. Here's what he said about that yesterday.
I was speculating. I freely said at the beginning, I was writing in the dark, and we're all in the dark.
So are you saying this is all your speculation? It's a big memo.
Well, it was informed to the extent that I thought that was one of the theories being considered. And I don't know how seriously, whether it was being considered or how seriously it was being considered.
If he was shooting, in the dark here, why would he write that memo? I mean, he didn't just write it. He made sure every possible attorney connected to President Trump and Jared Kushner all saw this thing. What's his motivation?
I think that's obviously the concern. Look, he said at the hearing what he said before, which is he was just acting as an interested party who has these views about the law and wanted to share them with other interested parties. But, I think the question is, why did he share them with Bob Mueller's boss, the person at the DOJ that would become Bob Mueller's boss if Rosenstein was fired, all of the other lawyers around the president? He didn't share it with someone who he claims is his good friend, Bob Mueller. And it leads you to believe he wasn't just acting as an interested party, because I can tell you from working at the Justice Department, this is not a usual thing. You don't just get random unsolicited memos, 19-page, very well-researched memos from people who have no stake in a case. The question is, was he acting sort of as an unofficial member of the Trump legal team, advocating at the department a position that would benefit the president? There would be a very easy way to clear this up, and it goes to the point that Barb raised, which is just to do what previous senior department nominees have done, attorneys general and deputy attorneys general, and say, there is somewhat of a question surrounding me. I get that. I will clear that up by leaving it in someone else's hands who we know is impartial, and that's the career ethics officials. And he wouldn't make the pledge that he would follow their advice, which is what previous nominees have done.
Why? Why would he write the memo, not adhere, not agree to adhere to what ethics officials say? And then third, why exactly does he want this job?
Look, I think the answer, I suspect it's the right answer, is that he's an institutionalist. I mean, he's had the job.
What does that mean?
That means that he believes in the importance of maintaining the integrity and reputation of the Justice Department, no matter who happens to be the president. He doesn't need it. He's a very successful attorney. He's nearing a retirement age. He spoke very clearly of his reverence for the institution. And by the way, it's so important when we have someone like Matt Whitaker as the acting attorney general, who's simply an attack dog for the president and for the worst aspects of the Trump administration, to have someone in that George H.W. Bush mold who really believes in the independence of the presidency. Of course, he's a Republican. Of course, he holds views about a strong executive. Of course, he believes that as the attorney general, he has a right to override the opinions of career officials. Any attorney general, Democratic or Republican, would tell you the same thing. In the end, they're also the boss. And so that's just a matter of maintaining a principle of who's running the department. But you listened to the guy and you said, could we ask for a better nominee from this administration? I'm not sure we could.
To that point, Donald Trump in the past has wanted nothing to do with Bush retreads, nothing to do with traditional Republicans. So I go back to, why would Bill Barr want to do this job? You could say, listen, he's an institutionalist, he's a patriot. That's what H.R. McMaster said. That's what Mattis said. And they've all gotten burned.
Well, I mean, I'm struck by his willingness to say in the hearing yesterday that I will not be bullied. okay, even by the
He
President of the
wasn't
United
asked that,
States.
and he said it,
Right.
yes.
So, I mean, we know that this president's MO is to bully, and is to bully especially his attorney generals and people who are his close advisors. If Bill Barr is not going to be, quote, bullied by the President of the United States, I think, to Brett's point, that's probably the best we could ever hope for out of this president in terms of a nominee. This is either the most sort of cynical nomination, or because, you know, he is pretending to be, you know, moderate and won't be pushed around on the one hand. And on the other hand, he wrote this 18-page memo, unsolicited, which could have been like a job nomination or a effort to get a job, which clearly worked out very well on his part. Or this guy is, you know, literally potentially going to be in a position to help save the republic.
But Matt, he also indicated that the Mueller report may not be made public. Would America stand for that?
I don't think so. There were Republican members of Congress yesterday that said they wanted to see it made public. Look, in the abstract, that's not an illegitimate position to have, I think. We don't even know if Bob Mueller is going to write a report at the end of this, other than the one that he has to submit internally. We hear a lot of speculation about this. He has never said that publicly. The Justice Department has never said that publicly. And I think absent these questions surrounding him writing the memo that he refuses to clear up by really following the precedent of past nominees and deferring to ethics officials, we might be willing to trust him on that. I think even Democrats might say, look, you are an institutionalist. You're someone who's qualified. You said the right things about the department's independence. We trust you to make the right decisions. The one thing that makes me doubt him is the fact that he took this unusual step to write the memo and is now taking the unusual step not to defer to the people whose impartiality is not questioned.
All right, Barbara, I want to move on to the Manafort filing. This thing is heavily redacted, but it's massive. You've got hundreds of pages, and a lot of it are detailing Manafort's relationship with a Russian operative. How important is that?
Well, of course, because we can't see exactly what it is, it's hard to know. But I do think that one thing that we can take away from this is both his contacts with a Russian operative and the fact that he was continuing to talk to Trump administration officials, funneling messages to the administration, even after he pleaded guilty and agreed to cooperate. And that suggests that he was playing sort of some kind of double agent game of maybe feeding material to the Trump legal team about what's going on in terms of the strategy of the prosecution. And so I think it's very problematic. And if that is the case, then it's not surprising that Robert Mueller and his team did what they sometimes threaten to do, which is to rip up the plea agreement, as they did in this case, the cooperation agreement. These were not ticky-tack lies. These were whose team are you on kind of lies.
Brett, you were making the point yesterday. I could tell on Twitter how frustrated you were. We are seeing the president and some of his closest allies continue this narrative, a false narrative, that Trump has been tougher on Russia than any other administration.
Yeah,
Fact bust that for us.
It's an astonishing claim. Harry Truman, Berlin airlift, JFK, Cuban Missile Crisis, Ronald Reagan, tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev calling the Soviet Union the evil empire. And then, of course, there's this word game that's being played by the president's defenders. Oh, you're talking about the Soviet Union, you're not talking about Russia, as if Putin isn't an agent of the KGB, as if all of his top minions aren't people who came directly out of the Soviet Union, and as if Russia isn't acting right now in precisely the same way. The fact is that every tough measure that the administration has taken against the Russians has been done over the president's hysterical objections. The sanctions that were put in place by John McCain, not exactly Donald Trump's best friend. So it's just an outrageous and one of the most egregious claims by this administration.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.